we have discussed about the principle of laser, that is nothing but a stimulated emission. So in this lecture, we are going to discuss about different types of lasers and what are the main components present in the lasers. Before discussing about main components present in the laser, first let us see the pumping mechanisms used in the lasers. So pumping mechanism or pumping process is nothing but rising more number of atoms to the excited state by artificial means of methods. So that is nothing but pumping. So why pumping is necessary here? So we know that in the previous lecture we discussed that in order to laser action takes place, we require population inversion. What is population inversion? The number of atoms present in the excited state should be greater than the number of atoms present in the lower energy states. That is nothing but the population inversion. So whenever population inversion dominates, then only there is a chance of stimulated emission takes place. So that is why it is necessary to raise the number of atoms from the lower energy levels to the upper or higher energy levels. So the process of raising more number of atoms to the excited state by some artificial technique, so is called pumping. So here a system in which the population inversion is achieved is called active system. So this is the active system which is a main basis, okay, so in which the stimulated emission takes place. So active system consists of many active centers in them. That means active centers are nothing but, so whenever some external energy is supplied to the atoms or molecules or ions present in the active system, they absorb that energy and they are excited to higher states. So that kind of system is nothing but active system. So here we have different methods of pumping. Those are nothing but optical pumping, electrical discharge pumping, and chemical pumping, and thermal pumping. We have another one also, that is nothing but injection carrier pumping. So different types of artificial techniques are used to raise the atoms present in the ground level to the excited state. So let us discuss what is optical pumping first. So optics is nothing but it is related to light. So similarly, in the method of optical pumping, we are going to use light. Okay, so light source which is able to produce higher wavelengths of light in the order of 6,000 to 7,000 angstroms. So can be used as a pumping source in order to raise the atoms present in the ground level to higher levels. So this is the process of optical pumping. So here we are going to use a light source like xenon, okay, so which has capability of producing wavelength in the range of 6,000 to 7,000 angstroms. So whenever that xenon light produces photons, so they strike the atoms present in the ground level in the active medium. So the number of atoms present in the ground level absorb that photons, so they get excited and then they go to higher energy states. Here that higher energy state is nothing but E3. So in the middle we have another state called E2. This is known as metastable state. Metastable state means we know that the lifetime of higher energy states is very less, in the order of only 10 power minus 8 microseconds. So that means whenever the atoms are excited to higher energy states, they will not stay there for longer time. So they stay only for short period of time within the 10 power minus 8 microseconds, and then they come back by emitting the photon, which is known as spontaneous emission. So that is why we need to stop that spontaneous emission in order to stimulated emission take place. So that is why we are going to hold some number of atoms in the middle state, which is known as metastable state, whose lifetime is greater than higher energy state. So here the lifetime of metastable state is in the order of 10 power minus 3 microseconds. That means here they can stay for longer time. So that is why the population inversion is achieved between the states E1 and E2. So then if we incident one chance photon which triggers the uh, stimulated emission process, then it is absorbed by the atom present in the metastable state E2. So because of that, it comes back to the ground state by emitting another photon. So now two photons will travel in the same direction. Like this, the number of photons will be multiplied. So we will get the highly directional monochromatic light from the laser. So this is the process of optical pumping. That means here we are going to produce a high wavelength light, okay, so which is absorbed by the atoms present in the ground state. They go to higher energy state E3. So since they will not stay there for a longer time, they fall back to E2, and we supply one more photon to the atoms present in the E2. So they absorb that and they fall back to E1 by releasing another photon. So which is nothing but stimulated emission. Understood? So this kind of pumping is used in solid state lasers like ruby laser, ND-YAG laser, and ND glass lasers. So these are the examples of lasers in which we are going to use optical pumping. And another one is electrical discharge pumping. So in this method, we are going to use electric discharge as pumping source or energy source. What is electric discharge? Electric discharge is nothing but flow of electrons. That means we are going to supply high amount of electric energy to the atoms. So whenever we supply the electric discharge in the order of 1000 volts to the atoms present in the ground level, so that high speed electrons will strike the atoms present in the ground level E1. So these high speed electrons collide with the atoms present in the ground level. So, and they excite that atoms present in the E1 state. So they absorb that energy and they go to upper energy state, which is nothing but E3. Okay. So now since E3's lifetime is very less, they fall back to metastable state. And after that, the population inversion has been achieved between the states E2 and E1. Now, due to this spontaneous emission takes place from E3 to E2, so that chance photon will trigger the stimulated emission. So, by which we will be obtaining many number of photons which travel in the same direction. So, this is how electrical discharge pumping will work. And another procedure is nothing but thermal pumping. So in this method, instead of using electric discharge, we are going to supply thermal energy. That means heat energy. That means we are going to heat the material. So whenever extra amount of heat energy is supplied, then the atoms present in the E1 absorb that heat energy. So they are excited and they go to excited state E3. Similarly, they fall back to E2 and then population inversion is achieved between E2 and E1, and the chance photon is going to trigger the stimulated emission process. Similarly, in chemical pumping, so the chemical reaction which is taking place between different atoms supply the extra amount of energy to the atoms or molecules. Due to that extra energy supplied by the chemical reactions, they get excited and go to the higher energy levels, and then they fall back to metastable states. Similarly, population inversion is met, then the chance of stimulated emission will take place. So this is how we are going to supply external energy and we rise the number of atoms from the ground level to the upper energy states. Whenever the number of atoms present in the upper energy states are greater than the lower energy states, then population inversion is achieved. So once the population inversion is achieved, then there is a chance of stimulated emission take place. So that is why we need to pump, or else we need to supply external energy to raise the atoms from ground levels to upper energy levels. This is nothing but the pumping technique. And then we have different schemes of pumping. So those are nothing but 2-level scheme, 3-level scheme, and 4-level schemes, and many more. Okay. So in the 2-level scheme, we have only two energy states. Those are nothing but E1 and E2. That is nothing but the ground state and higher energy state. Okay. So whenever whenever this kind of simulated emission takes place between only two levels, that kind of pumping scheme is nothing but 2-level pumping scheme. But the disadvantage of pumping scheme of 2-level is nothing but whenever we raise the number of atoms from the ground level to upper level, the lifetime of upper level is very much less. That is why they immediately fall back to the ground state. Now, the population inversion and simulated emission will take much time to happen. Why? Because all the atoms present in the upper level fall back immediately, it will become empty. So there is no chance of achieving population inversion again. We have to wait for some more time in order to raise the atoms from ground level to upper energy states. Understood? We need extra states. Those are like what metastable states. So we are going to create number of metastable states such that we make the other atoms to wait for some more time before they fall back to ground. This kind of schemes are nothing but pumping schemes. Okay, so because we need to achieve the population inversion, so that is why we need to increase the number of levels in the pumping schemes. In 3-level pumping scheme, we have 3 energy states. So those energy states are in such a way that E3 is always greater than E2 and E2 is always greater than E1. So E3 is the upper excited state and E2 is in the middle. Okay, its energy is in the it lies between E3 and E1. In E1 is the ground state. Now, whenever incident radiation, which is of frequency nu, is used to raise the atoms from the low level, okay, ground level to the excited state. So at that time, the atoms present in the ground level are means they absorb that energy and they go to upper level 3. Okay, so you can observe it. So here we are going to supply the frequency nu, okay, the photons. Okay, for example, let us consider optical pumping. So if we are going to supply photons of having frequency nu, so that energy is absorbed by the number of atoms present in the ground level. So they absorb that energy, they go to upper energy state. Since the upper energy state have less amount of lifetime, they fall back to the metastable state very quickly. So that is why the fastest decay has been shown here. Okay, that means the lifetime of upper energy state is very less. They fall back to immediately to the metastable state E2. So here the lifetime of metastable state is in the order of 10 power minus 3 seconds. So they can wait for some time. Meanwhile, we are going to supply extra energy to the atoms present in the ground state, and we are able to raise the number of atoms from ground level to the upper energy state E3. So now the population inversion is met between the energy states E2 and E1. Okay. Now, whenever we are going to supply one spontaneous uh, emission, see, we can supply external energy like in optical pumping. If it is any gas laser, there is no chance of supplying optical energy. So at that time, the spontaneous emission will trigger the stimulated emission. That means spontaneous emission means falling of atoms from upper level states to the ground level on their own. Okay. So here, whenever in the energy state E2, if any atom completes its lifetime, whenever it falls back voluntarily, so it will emit one photon. So this photon is absorbed by the atoms present in the middle, metastable state E2. Okay, so due to that, they again fall back to the ground state by emitting another photon. So now the number of photons value will increase. So all those will travel in the same direction. That is why we are going to get the monochromatic highly directional light. This scheme is nothing but 3-level pumping scheme. And since we need to supply energy continuously to the system, in case of 3-level pumping scheme, we are able to get only pulsed light, not a continuous beam of light. And that is why, since we are going to get only pulsed, pulsed beams of light in 3-level scheme, so we are going to use another scheme which is known as 4-level scheme. So in 4-level scheme, we have 4 energy states. So those 4 energy states are nothing but ground state, excited state, that is upper excited state, and the other 2 are nothing but metastable states. That means we are going to delay the atoms which are present in the upper energy states to wait for some amount of time in the lower energy states. I mean in the metastable states. So you can see the concept of 4-level pumping scheme here. So here, whenever we supply some external energy, that is through either optical pumping or else electric discharge pumping, anything, any pumping source can be used. Okay, so now that energy is absorbed by the atoms present in the lower energy state E1. So and they are excited to upper energy state E4. So since the lifetime of E4 is very less, they come back to the energy state E3 very quickly. So this energy state E3 is nothing but metastable state. Understood? Okay. So here the lifetime of E3 is much greater than the E4. So they will wait for some time there till more number of atoms reach the energy state E3. And now the population inversion is achieved between the levels E3 and E2 now. Why? Because number of atoms from E4 will quickly fall to the E3. So E2 is empty. So now more number of atoms are present in the energy level E3. So population inversion is achieved between energy levels E3 and E2. Okay. So now the laser action will take place. The laser action will take place between energy state E3 and energy state E2. Understood? So whenever this laser action takes place, I mean one chance photon triggers the stimulated emission process, then all the atoms present in the energy state E3 will fall back to E2 very quickly by emitting another number of photons. Okay. So here E2 level is chosen in such a way that the atoms present in the E2 will fall back to ground level very quickly once the stimulated emission has been achieved. So this is nothing but 4-level pumping scheme. And then coming to the components of laser. Okay, so the components of laser are nothing but there are 3 important components or media present in the laser in order to emit the light from the laser. Okay, so these are nothing but components of a laser. So the components required to produce highly directional monochromatic and intense light from the laser are nothing but source or pumping energy source, active medium, that is nothing but the laser material, and another one is optical cavity or resonator. So what are these 3? We'll discuss one by one now. So first thing is source of pumping energy. So that is nothing but we require one pumping source. Why? Why? Because just now we have discussed the pumping schemes. So where we are going to supply extra amount of energy to the laser medium to raise the number of atoms from ground level to the upper energy level. So to do that, we require one pumping source. So that source can be either a xenon flash lamp or high electric voltage, or else it can be uh, heat energy, whatever it may be. Okay, so the energy source will supply energy to the laser medium such that so next coming to the active medium. So active medium is nothing but the medium in which the laser action takes place. That means the population inversion is achieved and then the stimulated emission takes place. So now we are going to supply energy to the active medium such that the molecules or atoms or ions which are present in the active medium so will go to the upper energy states. So with the absorption of energy supplied by the pumping source. So then the population inversion has been achieved, then the laser action, that is nothing but stimulated emission, will take place. So here this active medium can be either solid or liquid or gas based on which kind of material we are using for it. So this active medium can be of solid or liquid or gas. So next, another component of laser is nothing but optical cavity or resonator. So this is helpful for multiplying or making the number of photons which are released in the process of stimulated emission in single direction. Okay, so we know that laser light is very bright, okay, and highly monochromatic and unidirectional. That means we are going to produce light only in the single direction. So this work, okay, this work which is nothing but the unidirectional or monochromatic unidirectional beam is generated with the help of optical cavity or resonator. So for that, what are the materials required? So those materials required for optical cavity are nothing but highly reflective mirror and partially reflective mirror, which are located at the two end faces of the active medium. Okay, so this highly reflective mirror is silvered completely at one end. The another end is only made by glass material. Whereas partially reflective mirror is silvered only partially, okay, such that it will allow some amount of light to pass through it. Okay, but these highly reflective mirror not allow any amount of light to pass through it. Only the light which is falling on the optical cavity, okay, so that means completely reflective material, so will just reflect back to in the I mean will reflect back in the opposite direction. Okay, that is how the optical cavity or resonator is constructed. That means the number of atoms, that means number of photons which are emitted by the process of stimulated emission, so they travel in different directions. But if they travel in different directions, we will not be able to obtain unidirectional light. That is why we have to make them unidirectional by reflecting all the generated photons to travel in only one direction. So this work is done by highly reflective mirror. So those photons which are travel in different directions, once they strike the highly reflective surface of the mirror, they strike the mirror, they reflect back and travel in the direction of partially reflective mirror. So here this partially reflective mirror helps us allow only a fraction of light that comes out of it, which is nothing but our required laser beam. So in this way we are able to generate highly directional laser beam with the help of optical cavity resonator. So these three are required for the generation of light from the laser. Next, coming to the different types of lasers available, I have already told you, based on the active medium we are going to use in the components of laser, we have different types of lasers. So those are nothing but solid lasers. So the examples of solid lasers, that means the medium is going to be a solid here. So ruby laser, ND arc laser and ND glass laser. And another one is liquid lasers. Okay, so here the medium, active medium is composed of liquids. So here the examples are europium chelate laser and selenium oxide chloride laser. Okay, and gas lasers. So in this, the active medium is made up of gas, gas molecules. Okay. So the examples are carbon dioxide laser, helium neon laser, argon ion laser. And dye lasers, it is also nothing but a solid laser only, but it is prepared by using the dyes. Okay. So rhodamine 6G is an example of dye lasers. And semiconductor lasers, which are composed of by semiconductors. Okay. So the examples of semiconductor lasers are indium phosphorus and gallium arsenide lasers. So these are different types of lasers. And now we are going to discuss two different and important types of lasers. Those are nothing but one kind of the solid laser, another one is gas lasers, which are highly used lasers nowadays. Okay. So coming to the solid laser, that is nothing but ND arc laser. So ND arc laser is nothing but it is a solid state laser which makes use of 4-level pumping scheme in it. And the pumping method we are going to use in this is nothing but optical pumping. So here the name ND arc stands for neodymium and YAG stands for yttrium aluminum garnet. So this one composed of 4 kinds of materials in it. Okay, neodymium is 1 and Y3 is nothing but yttrium, aluminum 5. Okay, so what 12. So this is the rod we are going to place in the ND arc laser. Okay, so here out of these 4 materials, ND, okay, ND3 plus ions are act as active medium. So it is developed by H.M. Marcus and L.G. Van Wittert in 1964. So we can generate pulsed beam of laser. So with the help of ND arc laser, that means we are going to generate only the pulsed laser beam, but not a continuous one. Okay. So here the wavelength of the light which is obtained from ND arc laser is in the order of 1.064 micrometer. Now let us see the construction of this ND arc laser. So it consists of ND arc laser crystal rod, okay, so which is composed by neodymium and yttrium aluminum garnet. So you can see the construction here. So it consists of one ND arc rod, okay, and after that we have one cylindrical cavity in which this rods is being, which are present inside the cylindrical cavity. So one is active medium rod, another one is xenon flash lamp. Why? Because we are going to use optical pumping technique here. So that is why these two are enclosed inside the cylindrical cavity. And at the two ends we have optical resonators. So at one end we have completely reflective material and another end is partially reflective material. So this is how the construction of ND arc laser is. And here if you look at the dimensions of this ND arc rod, okay, so it has 10 centimeters length and 6 to 9 centimeters diameter present inside it. Now let us see how does it work. So we need to create population inversion and then the stimulated emission will take place. So whenever this xenon lamp is turned on, at that time those photons which are emitted by the xenon lamp are absorbed by the Nd3 plus ions, so which is nothing but the active material present in it. So then those get excited from lower energy levels to the upper energy states. Okay, so here since this upper energy state lifetime is very much small, so they are going to come back immediately very fast to the E3 metastable state. So here the metastable state have much longer life than E4. So that is why all the atoms which are present in the E4 will fall back quickly and stay there, wait there till 10 power minus 3 microseconds. So meanwhile, we are going to supply energy to the ground level atoms such that we are raising them to the E4 again. Because we know that E4 will become empty quickly. So that is why we need to supply energy continuously to the ground level atoms to raise them to the upper energy states. So now, here in the E3, so they will wait for longer time. Now we are going to give another extra photon to stimulate, to trigger the stimulated emission take place. That means whenever we give external energy to the atoms present in the E3, they absorb that photon of having frequency nu. So they will come back to the level E2 by emitting another photon. So now we have two number of photons, so which travel in the same direction. That means we are going to achieve the process called stimulated emission. So this process is continuously take place between energy levels E3 and E2. That means laser action takes place between E3 and E2 in the Nd:Arc laser. And after that, okay, so since we have resonators present here, so all these released photons by the process of stimulated emission will reflect back from the highly reflective material and travel only in single direction. So that is how we are going to obtain single direction monochromatic beam of laser. Since the other end contains partially reflective mirror, some amount of the light will come back as laser beam. And this E2, okay, from E2 the atoms will fall back to ground state again, and hence we have the availability of atoms for raising them to upper energy states. So here we will get, by the process of stimulated emission, we are able to obtain the wavelength, okay. So the wavelength of the light we are going to obtain by this process of optical pumping in Nd:Arc laser is nothing but 1.064 micrometer. So this one is also, here also we are going to get only pulsed beam only, not a continuous beam. So that is why in order to get continuous beam of light, okay, the process of the process of pumping and stimulated must not stop. So they have to take place all the time. Okay. So in order to create continuous beam of light, this happen continuously. That means raising the atoms to the upper levels and then making them to available for some amount of time. I mean population inversion till it happens, and then stimulated emission take place. So there should not be any break in this cycle. Okay. So all these should happen continuously. Then only we will be able to obtain continuous emission of laser light. So this can be possible with the help of helium neon laser. So it was discovered by A. Javan and his co-workers in 1960. It is a continuous wave laser. That means the emission of light from the laser is continuous but not pulsed one. Okay. So the mixture which we are going to use here is nothing but helium and neon in the ratio of 10:1. So this acts as active medium. But though we are using helium and neon here, but actually neon is the active medium in this kind of laser. And coming to the construction of this is, so here we know that the ratio of gases is in the ratio of 10:1, and both ends of the discharge tube we are going to arrange optical mirrors. One is fully reflecting, another one is partially reflecting. And the length of the discharge tube is nothing but for which we are going to supply external voltage. That means in helium neon laser we are going to use the process called electrical discharge pumping. We are going to supply 1000 volts current, okay, to the discharge tube. So here this discharge tube length is 80 centimeter and its diameter is very less, that is 1 centimeter. Okay, and then So here the power of this laser depends upon the this length of discharge tube and pressure of the gas we are going to uh, use inside the discharge tube. That means based on how the active medium, okay, so is functioning and what is the length of discharge tube will give us the amount of light that is coming out of the laser. So here in this laser we will be able to obtain number of transitions. So during which we will be able to obtain wavelengths like in the order of 3.39 micrometer, 1.15 micrometer on 6328 angstroms in this laser. So here this 3.39, 1.15 are in the infrared range which we can see, but 6328 angstroms is in the order of visible range that we can see. Okay, that means here we are able to obtain three wavelengths. Okay, three kinds of lights we are going to obtain, but two are in the range of infrared. Only one is in the range of visible light. So coming to the construction of helium neon laser, this is the construction. So here we have at the middle, so one discharge tube is available in which we are going to place active medium in the ratio of 10:1. Helium molecules are 10, neon molecules are in 1 ratio. So at one end we have fully reflected mirror, at another end we have partially reflecting mirror. Okay. So now we are going to connect that discharge tube to the 1000 volts of electric source. So whenever we turn on this electric voltage supply, so now the highly accelerated electrons will strike the molecules present in the helium and neon. Since helium is very light in weight, first helium will get excited. Okay, so here left side I have shown three levels F1, F2, F3. These are nothing but the excited, different states of helium ions. Whereas at the right side we have different energy states. These are the energy states of neon. Okay, that means the active molecules, though helium is very active, but the laser action will take place only in neon. So how it will happen, just discuss. We'll discuss now. So whenever the accelerated electrons strike the helium material, since they are light in weight, they are easily excited, and from ground level to upper energy states, they go to upper energy states F2 and F3. Since helium ions will not come back very quickly, so they require some media, okay, some medium to come back to the ground level states. So how it will happen means these supply that extra energy to the neon atoms. So once they supply that extra energy to the neon atom, then they are able to fall back. Otherwise, they will not fall back. Okay, so that is why at higher energy states, so these will supply the kinetic energy obtained by the helium molecules to the neon atoms present in the ground level. So whenever the kinetic energy is supplied to the neon atoms, then they will get excited. So when they will get excited, they go to the upper energy states like E6. Okay, so higher energy state is E6 present in the neon atom. So all the neon atoms will go to E6 state. Since the lifetime of E6 is very less, they fall back to immediately E5. And hence, see here we have two equal energy states here. F3 will supply, okay, the atoms present in the F3 energy state supply energy to the atoms present in the E4. And F2, the atoms present in the F2 states, these helium atoms supply energy to the E4. So that is why we have two upper energy states available here. Those are nothing but E4 and E6. And lower energy states where the population inversion is going to meet is nothing but E5 and E3. That means the transitions will take place between these four. Okay, the population inversion and the laser action will take place between these four energy states. From E5 they fall back to E4. Similarly, from E4 they fall back to E3. Okay. So now, since there is no any external light energy supplied, because it is only electric discharge pumping, so the atoms present in the energy state E5, okay, and energy state E4 are going to fall back on their own. First, we require spontaneous emission process here. then only we will be able to obtain photon. Okay, so once the spontaneous emission takes place, that means they will voluntarily come back to the ground states, I mean lower energy states. So then one chance photon will obtain for triggering the stimulated emission. That photon is absorbed by the remaining atoms present in the E5 and E3. Okay, so at that time there is a chance of stimulated emission. That means by after absorbing one photon, another photon is released once again. So this kind of process is continuously repeated between these four energy states. So from E3, this is going to fall between E2. Okay, so and then the laser action can take place between E3 and E2. So with the help of spontaneous emission. And now here between E2 and E1. So these neon atoms will wait for some time in the energy state E2 till they come back to the ground level again. So they can't come back on their own here. So they strike the walls of discharge tube while they are traveling in different directions. And finally they come back to the ground level E1. So this process is continued till we are going to obtain the continuous emission of beam of light from this. Okay, so this is how we are going to get continuous beam of light from helium neon gas laser. Next, coming to the final topic of this lasers, that is nothing but applications of lasers, where we are going to use these different lasers. So since the properties of lasers are nothing but they have high brightness, highly monochromatic and highly directional, so they are going to be used in different fields. Okay, so we are going to use them in communication for transferring light energy for longer distances, which we are going to discuss in next section. That is nothing but optical fibers. And these are used in computers for transferring the data from one computer to another computer. Okay, and then in chemistry for triggering certain chemical reactions, lasers are used, and in photography. Okay, so we are going to construct holograms. Holograms are nothing but 3D images. So with the help of lasers. And in industries, we are going to use the lasers for cutting and drilling the materials. We are going to make holes, that is nothing but drilling. So we are going to make holes in ceramics with the help of lasers. We are going to melt some materials like steel, okay, and we are going to cut the materials like glass with the help of lasers. And in medicine, for the treatment of cancer, for the treatment of eye cataracts. Okay, so in all these surgeries, laser treatment is useful. Okay, similarly in endoscopy to diagnose what is present inside the stomach. Okay, so for analyzing that also laser is going to be used. And in military, okay, in military laser is going to be used as war weapon. So we are going to destroy the enemy aircrafts with the help of high efficient lasers. Okay, and then in scientific research lasers are used for creation of isotopes. So all these are the different applications of lasers where we can use lasers for particular requirements.